Good evening, everyone. This week's video is a special request from Tiffany, who loves the series and is really into it and said it was a little dark. So this week's video will be on how to know if you have Asperger syndrome. Well, there's no, as I've said, I'm only an associate's degree holder. I'm working on a bachelor's of science, but it won't be in psychology. However, let me tell you a little bit about how I got diagnosed. It was 2002, and I had to recertify for having dysgraphia. You have to do it several times as a child, every couple of years, but you have to do it once as an adult, and it had never been done. I was 23, I'd been in college for a few years, and it just hadn't been done, so they had to redo it. Now, to recertify me for dysgraphia, which is a writing disability, they had to give me an IQ test, which is very odd, but, well, such is life. So it took about 6 hours, and they did a lot of things, and I kept getting kind of weird things. Like, they give me a test for reading, and then they wouldn't mention, oh, we want you to know, like, how fast you could read. And they were like, well, we want to know, like, how much of that you can comprehend. And I didn't know about that, so I was like, well, can I redo the test? Well, no, you read that very fast. We'll skip it. Little things like that. Oh, itchy nose. Oh, God, it's allergy season. I apologize. And they had me do a series of pictures, arrange them in order, and there was like one right way, one alternately right way, and just a bajillion of wrong ways. And I chose the alternatively right way every single time. Apparently, in fact, I also chose the alternatively right way over the normally right way. And the woman giving me the test said that I chose the alternatively right way. It was very odd. So there were a lot of odd things. My IQ tested it functionally into the 155 to 160 range, but my IQ score range was so large that it, in fact, was statistically improbable. They had to recheck their data. They had to recheck everything. In fact, they didn't call me when they were supposed to, and I called them up. They said, oh, yes, about your IQ, there are problems. I was like, well, I have one, right? They're like, oh, yes, you have one. It's like, oh, good. It's like, you don't want to get that call. That, hello, we gave you an IQ test, and it was negative. You don't want that call. So I took the test, and everything was fine. Like I said, very weird scores. And they came back in about 6 weeks. And they said, we think you have Asperger syndrome. And they sent me over for confirmation to a neuropsychiatrist. Neuropsychiatrist agreed, said, we think you have Asperger syndrome. So I got diagnosed by like the head of special education at my local university and by a neuropsychiatrist. Very solid. Since then, there are other tools that have come out. The AQ test by Wired.com. By the way, I'll be mentioning some things, and they will all be found in the notes section below this video on YouTube. If you're watching this on Vimeo or another website, then yeah, the links will be in YouTube. So, and the AQ test has been shown to be very good. Very, very good for figuring out whether or not you have Asperger's. It's not 100%, but every person I know with Asperger's, every person I've talked to who's since been diagnosed with Asperger's have all said that they use the AQ test, and the AQ test, Asperger's Quotient test, was right. So I know it's not 100%, yet I haven't yet met somebody who hasn't tested into the Aspergian range who had, I'm sorry, I should say, I know people who test in the Aspergian range who don't have it, but I don't know anyone who does have it that tests into a normal range. Everyone with Asperger's tests into the Asperger's range. So, that I know of. There's also facial recognition tests that I'll be putting, below. And I scored like 5 out of 20. Normal is like 13 to 15. And I scored 5 correct faces. There's also an empathy quotient test. I think I'm giving you the one that says itch. that says if you score like 20 or below and you have an autism spectrum disorder, no worries, you're doing pretty good. And if I didn't, I apologize. I'd have to retake the test. It takes a little while, and then it'll give you the scores and explain what they mean. But if I didn't, then if you can hunt around for that test is very accurate. It's like a score of 80, and I got like 17. So normal's like 50. Also, there's a empathy quotient, empathy intelligence test. I couldn't find the one that I personally took, and I just like that one, even though I scored very, very high on emotional intelligence. What it is how aware of your own emotions are you? And that's something that a lot of people with Asperger's or autism, I've found, have a slightly less knowledge of. However, normal people don't know very much. So we're talking about shades of gray here. But it's just good to know how your EQ, how high your emotional intelligence is, because it will help you get through and get around. So yeah, so how do you know? How do you find out? Aha! You talk to people with PhDs and MDs, and you get them to certify you. And if you have a local college that you can go to, a local university, it's generally cheaper. Personally, at the time, a family member of mine was in this department, so I got the test for free. But anyone else who had gotten the test that I got, the big WASC 3 and all the other tests, would have ran about $130, and this was 11 years ago. So, yeah, how do you know? Well, do you see the world in black and white? Yes. Do you think logically? Do you follow logic paths and hit the end and say, and that's the way it should be? Yes. Do you, read from the online Asperger syndrome information site about Asperger syndrome and go, boy, that's me? There's a lot that you can do and you can read and say, if you think that you have it after going through all that stuff, go get checked out. Go have it done. Knowledge is power, all right? If you know what the problem is, then you know what to do about it. I always thought something was wrong, as I've said, and I'll say in other videos. I always thought, and I'll explore about what Asperger's is. This is the series. I always thought there was something wrong. I thought it was the rest of the world. It turned out to be me, because I couldn't see, because I have Asperger's, I couldn't see the problems other people saw. So that's my personal thing. How do you know if you have Asperger's? Well, if you go through a bunch of things, and you think you do, then maybe you do, maybe you probably do. David Finch, in his book, Journal of Best Practices, talks about his wife giving him like a 200-question test, or a series of tests, I forget exactly, and her going, yeah, I think you have it. And as far as he was concerned, she diagnosed him. And she did diagnose him. It wasn't official. It was just, her profession tuned her into that, and a wife's intuition, and she's very smart. But she was right. So, yeah, go do that. Go do the other thing. It is a spectrum. As somebody pointed out to me, the entire population of the planet falls under the autism spectrum, because somebody's got to get at 0. Somebody's got to be sitting at 0, no autism, no Aspergian qualities, nothing, 100%, all the way off. But they got to sit there. And then there's other people at 100, and then there's like everybody else. I'm not sitting at 0, I'm not sitting at 100. I think I'm sitting 30 to 50, if there were a spectrum. I bet you there's a normal distribution of statistics on this, like in mathematics, the normal distribution. I bet you could find out. But so yeah, everyone's on the spectrum. Not everyone who has Aspergian or autistic qualities is Asperger's or autistic. However, yeah, if you suspect, get yourself checked out. The worst thing that's going to happen is you find out the truth. How hard is that? Turns out it's pretty fucking hard. But, and I'm saying this now, would I want to know, or would I not want to know? I bet you that's a big question. Do I want to know? Yes, you want to know. Okay, you really want to know. If I had known 8 years sooner, my life would be so much different. But it's not. It's what I have. So knowledge is power. And I know they say knowledge is power, power corrupts, study hard, be evil. But in this case, knowledge is power, and it will set you free. Have a good night, everyone.